the types of men to avoid in 2026, and it's going to be really interesting. Like I'll be talking about different types. So hope you are doing well. Um, I think I'll talk about the first one, which is the Ahab man. You know, Ahabs are very passive. You know, they are very passive. They are very weak, and they're easy influenced. So toxic pastors, they love Ahab men that are just, you know, they're very passive, they're very feminine, and they're very easily influenced. And they're the type of guy that you feel like you have to be a Jezebel in a relationship. You know, you feel like you have to be the Jezebel in a relationship. You feel like you have to be the man. You have to be the man in a relationship. You're like, oh my gosh, you know, you feel like, you know, you feel like you have to be the man and control everything and do everything, and while they be passive and feminine, and they just be resting in their femininity. So the Ahab guy is, he's very passive. He's very angry, and he's scared of confrontation. He just has a lot of mood swings, and you see that a lot in church. You see that a lot in church. Moody, they're very miserable because Jezebel is trying to control them, and you know, instead of confronting it, they just have tantrums, and they don't know how to confront Jezebel and saying, "Oh, this is not happening. You know, you're not doing this." And sometimes women are full because their husbands are Ahab, and they don't protect, they don't lead, they don't provide, they don't protect. That sometimes some of them are resting in their femininity and they're being feminine, and it could be a man. So they have to be like the man of the relationship. So it is disheartening. It is disheartening when it comes to, you know, being, you know, Ahabbed. Ahab man is very passive. Like, you could be dating a guy, and if he's Ahabbed, someone might say to him that, oh, you know, the girl you're dating, she is very, you know, she's this, she's that, and sometimes they try to tear down your character, and say, oh, she's this, she's that, and they just believe her. They believe the person. They believe the person saying it. They say, oh yeah, okay, and don't date her, and then they'll be like, oh okay, fine. They're very, very passive. They don't have a mind of their own. That's why you see a lot of men in church that are Ahabs. You know, they say, "Oh, don't marry her. Don't do this." They don't even know. They don't even know. They don't even know if they marry her or not. They just say, "Okay, okay." They're just like, "Okay." They take it lying down. It's like, "Okay, whatever you say." They're easily influenced. Like, they don't have a mind of their own. And toxic pastors love people like that. They love guys that are just very passive. They say yes. They nod their head and be like, "Oh yeah." Okay. They love passive men that are just weak. They just take it lying down. Okay, okay. And then some Ahab men, they think that they're being humble. And they really think they're being humble. And they think, yeah, okay, fine. Like, I'm humble. I'll just say yes. And they think that they're being humble, but they're being Ahabbed. They're passive, and they think, oh, I'm humble. And sometimes they try to themselves think, oh, I'm very humble. I'm laid back. And some, you know, a lot of Jezebelic women love passive men. They love Ahab because if you keep saying yes and being humble, like, oh, this is perfect. Like, you just say yes, passive. That's perfect. A lot of Jezebelic women and pastors love Ahab man. They're very passive. They don't like confrontation at all, and they just rather just sit there, and they're enablers. A lot of Ahab men are enablers. They just yes to everything, and they watch the abuse happen. They watch abuse happen, and they're like, oh, it's okay. They're very passive, and they can watch abuse and they just don't do nothing. And a lot of women, a lot of people in church, they have a silent resentment towards Ahabs that are just passive. They're weak. They don't confront the past. They don't confront people that are abusive, and often suffer in silence because Ahabs don't do nothing. They're very passive, and they have to. Sometimes they delude themselves, thinking that they're humble. Oh, I'm so humble. I just, wow, that pastor's so abusive, but I just turn a blind eye. I'm so humble, and they have to delude themselves because if they face up to the truth and realize how weak they are, it make them feel embarrassed. They'll make them it crush their ego, so they have to remain prideful and be like, oh yeah, I'm humble. Yeah, I'm really humble. Like, I'm so humble, but they are cowards. They are absolute cowards, and they have to say, "Oh, I'm humble." You know, I don't like confrontation, but they are very passive and weak, and they don't like confrontation. So you're literally, if you date a guy like this, Like, he hasn't got a mind of his own. You'd be like, you end up being annoyed. You end up being annoyed because they are just so passive. They're very, very passive, and you just like, do something. Like, you know, abusing your daughter, do something. They're abusing your son, do something. They're like, oh, you know, oh, I'm humble, I'm humble, I'm humble. But they are very, very passive, and they're just scared of confrontation. They're scared to be like, oh yeah. They're scared of the conversation, and sometimes people that suffer in silence, they have this anger toward people that don't speak up and help them. So they're very, 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 very passive. They're very, very passive. They're weak minded, and like they they say certain things, and you know it's just a tantrum. They have tantrums, and you know they have this resentment, and they can't speak up. So it's so important to know that if you're dating an Ahab guy, you notice that he's very feminine. He wants you to be the man. He wants you to be the man of the relationship. He wants you to be the controlling one. And sometimes if you end up, you know, falling for it, people say, "Oh my gosh, I feel so sorry for her. I feel so sorry for him. He's so humble," and the woman's just so miserable and controlling. But sometimes it's because he can't take charge, he can't provide, he can't protect, he can't lead, and that makes the woman have to be masculine mode, and it confuses the son as well. Like it can confuse the son and think, oh, I thought the man was supposed to be the leader. I thought the man was supposed to be in charge, be provider, and be protective. But it's a woman that's praying, she's fasting, the man's doing nothing. It's supposed to, you know, men's supposed to be praying too, but we have this thing that women are prayer warriors and the man is just there lying down. He's not really doing anything. He's watching, you know, inappropriate stuff online. He's doing certain things that's inappropriate, and you have the woman that's praying, being the man of the relationship, you know, covering a house and praying, and the man's just doing nothing. And it if you're not careful, that'll be you. You be the prayer warrior, he's doing nothing. So when people say, oh, you know, keep praying for your kingdom marriage, keep praying for your husband, sometimes it is discouraging, because sometimes when they do find someone, they start to think, okay, he's nice, but he's quite passive, he's feminine, he doesn't really pray, he doesn't, you know, he's just very laid back. And nothing wrong with being a quiet person, but if you're just Ahabbed, that's going to be fair. That's going to be absolute warfare. So it's so important when you know, have men, you might think, oh, he's humble, you know, he can say yes to everything, it might be fun. But at the end of the day, if you do continue to date Ahab guy, or if he could have a Jezebelic mother as well, that's concerning, and it's going to be hard. That's going to be warfare, because you know Jezebels don't like prophets. They don't like prophetic people. They don't like you know, they don't like people that are prophetic and stuff like that. So it's so important to know that to know the signs, and it's so important to put God first and don't idolize marriage. Because if you idolize marriage, you might see Ahab and think, oh, that's not bad. You know, you might try to downplay and go, oh, that's not bad. I can lead. I can, you know, lead him to Christ. But if he's not being the man, if he's not being bold and having courage, that can really put you off, and you end up being resentful. So I think I'll be talking about the second one now. Is the second type is the misogynist. If you're called to ministry, if you have a big call in your life, you have a huge calling, you have assignment, and you know you're anointed, be warfare. Like, you're gonna try to tear down your self-esteem. You're gonna be throwing shade a lot. He can try to tear you down mentally, physically, and spiritually. And if you date a misogynist, he's gonna try to tear down your self-esteem. And especially women, you've gone through so much warfare, and you've been humbled so much times, and he feels the need to humble you. You're gonna be frustrated. You know, you're gonna feel frustrated if you have gone through stuff. You know, you've gone through trials, and you've gone through heartache, heartbreak, betrayal, and you've been through so much. And this guy has come, and his assignment to tear you down. You feel disheartened. You feel like, wow, you're supposed to be protecting me. Like, I've been through a lot of warfare. I've been through a lot of betrayal and hurt and abuse, and he comes out of nowhere and he's trying to tear you down. So that's gonna be a shock to your system. You think, oh, I've been through a lot. How comes I don't feel protected? How comes you're not being like Boaz and being protective? Why is he tearing you down? And it's because he's insecure. He's weak. He's insecure. He's obsessed with power. And when he sees that you have power, it intimidates him, because he's like, oh, I'm trying to get this power. I'm chasing down leaders. I'm chasing people. I'm chasing, you know, success. And here she is with ideas and creativity. It makes him intimidated. instead of him to think, oh wow, I'm inspired, he's intimidated. Like he's supposed to be inspired, empowered, and encourage you and go, oh, oh, you got this. But he's tearing at your self-esteem. He's trying to make you feel like rubbish. Like, oh yeah, who do you think you are? He really wants to tear you down and humble you. But you've been through a lot already. You've been through spiritual warfare. You've been through spiritual warfare. You've been through so much, and here he is trying to tear you down. And you don't need a guy like that. You don't need a guy that makes your life even worse. Like maybe you're going through warfare right now, and a guy comes in and he's like he's 1 minute he's nice and then 1 minute he's tearing down your self-esteem. You have to wonder why he's doing that. And if even if it's like nitpicking and just putting you down, that's not good. That's not good. People might think that, oh yeah, that's not bad, he's not hitting me. But if he's constantly trying to tear you down and he's competing with you, everything's a competition, that's unhealthy. Because when it comes to kingdom marriage, it's about becoming one and each other as like different. Like if he doesn't know his identity and if he's not confident, he's gonna keep trying to tear you down. He's gonna keep trying to tear you down. So it's so important to know that when it comes to guys that are just throwing a lot of shade, they try to badmouth you to people and they want to humble you. You have to ask yourself, is this the life you want? You've been through warfare enough. You need someone on your side. You need someone that's can actually help you, empower you, and not like try to tear you down. So I would be very careful with the misogynist, because if you're going to be a modern day Esther and use your voice to the nations and have a voice, if he's trying to tear you down, go much, women should be quiet, then you'll just feel so intimidated. Okay, maybe I should be, quiet. And if God wants you to be, if God wants you to use your voice and speak up and empower people, and here he is trying to tear you down, he's gonna ruin your ministry. He's gonna tear down your ministry, and you're gonna be muzzled. So it's so important to know the type of guy you're dating, because they could jeopardize your calling. So I'm gonna talk about the next one. The third guy is the colorist. He's full of self-hatred. Like he hates his race. He hates his skin color. He hates his hair, and this could be for not skin, but it could be any woman, because your kid might come out with like a different hair, and you have to be worried about how your child will come out as. Because if he's a colorist, if he's a coon and he hates himself, then you're gonna be worried about what your children gonna look like. If he's a coconut, if he's like a coon and he doesn't like himself, you're gonna have a hard time. You're gonna be worried about what your baby's gonna look like, because he is a coconut. He's a self-hating man. He don't like himself. He's full of self-hatred. He thinks that if he has lighter kids, more success. He's snobbish. He's arrogant. He's very arrogant, and he's self-hating. It's not just a preference thing. If it was a preference thing, that's not a problem. There's nothing wrong with having a type, but it just depends on the reasoning for it. Is it self-hatred? Is it discrimination that they went through? Do they hate themselves? Are they disappointed in their mum? Are they disappointed in their dad? Like, do they hate their mum? Do they hate their dad? Like, what's their reason for being a colorist? Are they a colorist, or do they have a preference? And if they're in self-hatred, during your kid's life, because you can look at them like, oh my gosh, okay, straighten that, do this to the hair, do that, and you don't want to be with someone that's shallow, that's ignorant, that's full of self-hatred, and that's like looks at people like, you might look at black girls and think, oh my god, who does she think she is, being feminine? She shouldn't be feminine. She needs to man up. She needs to man up. And I have this mentality when I see women being feminine and embracing femininity, not thinking, oh my gosh, you shouldn't be like that. So it's so important to know that. I'll talk about the next one now. The toxic church boy. He's very ignorant. He's sheltered. He's very judgmental. He doesn't have a mind of his own. It's similar to Ahab. It's similar, but some men in church, they serve. They haven't got a heart change. They are still bad mind. They're still ignorant. They're in church, but they're very ignorant. They're very closed off and sheltered. Like, they can be very judgmental, and don't understand what goes on. They don't realize, some women are abused. Some women go through abuse, and sometimes they are just very judgmental. Like they might see someone as a young single mother or a woman on Instagram. They might just see her and go, oh, she's attention seeker, she's this, she's that, and she's fast. But they don't know nothing. Like sometimes men in church, they serve, they do stuff in church, but they're very ignorant. They're very, very, very ignorant and sheltered. They don't know life. They don't really know about life experiences. They're just closed off and shallow, and they don't have an open mind. So when someone doesn't have an open mind, they can just jump to conclusions. They can, they're not protective. They're just, they're very judgmental. They jump to conclusions and they don't really know anything. They're just very sheltered and toxic, and they haven't got a heart change. They serve in church, and some women think, oh, he's doing this in church, he's doing that, but they're scared of rejection. They didn't. They are, yeah. And some of these men even sometimes they bring in Jezebels. They bring in Jezebels from outside, and they think, oh, okay, how is this happening? Like you're a Christian, you grow up in church, and you bring someone that doesn't even know God, and end up dating her and stuff like that. So they are very sheltered. They're very judgmental, and they don't grow in Christ. They don't grow in God. They just go there and they see it's a social club, and they're very judgmental. And sometimes women are discouraged because they think, oh, why are they bringing in, they bring in the bells, they bring in women that don't love God, and they're confused. But it's because they have identity crisis. Some guys in church don't go to the Lord. They just see it as a social club, and they don't really grow. So people, he goes to church though, and he comes in with someone that's not really a Christian or stuff like that, and they get upset because, that's why you see a lot of they molest young girls, and a lot of them are creeps, they're perverts, because they're not really, they go to church as a social club to them. They don't have a heart change. They don't get deliverance. They don't get deliverance. They don't get healing. They end up being creeps. They end up talking to little girls, and they don't really get the healing. And when it comes to kingdom marriage, I feel like men need to be, empowered to get the healing too. And when it comes to single conferences, it just seems like women are only there and men are just at home. I don't know what they're watching. They're probably at home watching something they shouldn't be watching, and they're looking at, they're talking to little girls. Women are told, oh, prepare yourself, prepare yourself. But these so-called church guys and church boys, they're at home and they're controlling little girls, and they're not getting deliverance, not getting healing. They kind of get ignored. They're kind of ignored. There's nothing for them. They're just like, oh, some women don't like men. They don't like boys. They hate males. So it's like, oh, you get on, deal with it. Just deal with it. I don't deal with men right now. I hate men. So they're just, a lot of them hate men. So they're just like, oh, you deal with it, and and the way that some men deal with it is, addictions, stuff they watch online. They shouldn't be watching. It's suffer in silence, and nothing gets done. And the last one is narcissists, narcissistic men. This should be the last one, because you just love bombing. They love bomb you, and they're rushing you. Is a big rush. They move too fast, and sometimes, you think that, oh wow, like, this is amazing. He's moving fast. He's very nice. He's being friendly. He's being sweet. But when they rush and it's very quick, and you get all these gifts and loves, and when you get gifts, when they love bomb and they are very, very, very sweet, that's just the beginning. It's just all infatuation. It's lust. It's not really real. So when they withhold it, you now feel like a drug addict, because that dopamine rush you get in the beginning, now they push it back, and now you feel like a drug addict. That wasn't love. That's lust. That was infatuation. That's not real. You can't build on that. That's just lust. It's about worship, self-worship. It's about adultery, and it's all about, oh yeah, it's just all about like, oh yeah, self-worship, and it's just future thinking what we're gonna do, and just causing, you to feel certain things. And sometimes when you're prophetic, sometimes you get deluded and you have thoughts of thinking, oh, he's gonna do this, he's gonna do that, but it's all lies. It's all infatuation. So I want to do a quick I want to do a quick video about it. Since I finished quite early, is there any more is there any questions? Is there any questions I have or anything? Because I finished quite early. It's still early. I never thought the live would be that quick. But if not, you can email me. Yeah, thank you for listening.